Hi, and welcome. Thanks for tuning in. The practice we're going to do today is a slow flow focused on our hamstrings, so the muscles that run along the backs of the thighs. We will both strengthen and stretch the hamstrings, and we'll talk about that in detail as we're going. Okay, so we're going to start on our backs. You don't need any props for this. You can just make your way down onto your back. Coming into a really comfortable position, so maybe that means lengthening your legs, maybe that means bending your knees. In the beginning of the practice, I always like to start with my knees bent. It feels better in my spine, but you do what feels best for you. That goes throughout the practice, anytime you practice with any teacher, anywhere. So you do what feels best. I like constructive resting pose, knees bent, feet flat, feet at the edges of the mat, let the knees knock in, and let the arms rest. Maybe out in opposite directions, maybe alongside the body, but the palms facing up. And once you've found a comfortable position, let your body rest. Let your eyelids feel heavy so they close. And drop into your body. Allow the back side of your body to feel heavy against the floor beneath you. Let gravity do its job as you relax your muscles and your joints. As you relax your body, you can tune into your breath. So notice your breath. Notice for a few moments your natural breath. Notice if you're breathing through your nose or your mouth. Notice if the breath settles in the chest or travels to the belly. Notice the temperature of your breath as it passes in and as it exits. Welcome to continue breathing naturally, noticing your breath, observing your breath. Or maybe you begin to manipulate your breath. We'll manipulate the breath here with Viloma 1. Viloma means against the grain or against the natural order. So instead of a smooth, seamless breath, we'll divide the inhalation into 3 equal parts. The exhalation will be smooth and fluid, and then we'll come back to a natural breath. So to begin, exhale completely. Push all of the breath out of your lungs. And then inhale 1/3 of the way and pause. Hold your breath. Now inhale 2/3 of the way. Pause. Hold your breath. Now inhale 3/3 of the way. Fill your lungs to their capacity. Hold it at the top. And then exhale a long, smooth, fluid breath out. Inhale naturally. Exhale naturally. Now return back to Viloma. Inhale 1/3 of the way. Pause. Hold the breath. Inhale 2/3 of the way. Pause, hold the breath. Inhale 3/3, fill your lungs all the way, 100%. Hold it at the top. And then exhale a long, smooth, fluid breath out. Inhale naturally, exhale naturally. We'll do 2 more like that. Inhale 1/3 of the way, pause. Hold the breath, but soften your shoulders and arms. Inhale 2/3 of the way, pause, hold the breath, but soften the throat and the neck. Inhale 3/3 of the way to your capacity. Hold the breath, but soften the muscles of your face. And then exhale a long, seamless breath out. Inhale naturally. Exhale naturally. One last round. Inhale 1/3 of the way. Pause, hold the breath. Inhale 2/3 of the way. Pause, hold the breath. Inhale 3/3 of the way. Fill your lungs to their capacity. Hold it at the top, but soften muscles. And then exhale. Return back to your natural breath, breathing in and out in a very seamless way. Notice how you feel. Now continuing to keep your attention inward and present. If it feels right for you in this moment, you're welcome to silently set an intention for your practice. Ask yourself, what brought you to your mat? What is it that you'd like to gain or manifest from this practice? And then give yourself a few moments to slowly repeat that word or phrase to allow it to settle in your heart. And then start to deepen the breath, taking some belly breaths, sending your breath all the way down to the low belly. Creating these deep breaths and then creating soft movements everywhere else. So let your head rock from side to side. Moving through the arms and legs. Take a few moments to move in any way that feels good for you. Again, knowing that you are in control of your body, so the intention is to move in a comfortable way. If that means skipping something, doing your own thing, know that that's always an option, whether you're alone, in a group, whatever it is. In a moment, we'll meet with the knees bent and feet flat on the floor. Okay, so we'll inhale. Exhale, hug the right thigh into the belly, holding onto the back of the thigh as opposed to the shin. So your hands are actually on your hamstrings. Again, this is the muscle group that we're going to work on today. So holding onto the back of the thigh. Now I want to hug the thigh in and keep the thigh fairly still. Inhale, reach the right foot to the ceiling. Exhale, bend the knee. Inhale, lengthen the leg. Exhale, bend the knee. So when you reach your foot to the ceiling, your foot won't lengthen. Notice that my knee is still pretty bent, but I am feeling a deep stretch in the hamstring. We want the stretch more than we want a straight leg. So the thigh stays hugged in, the thigh stays fairly still, and you move just at the knee. And again, when you straighten the leg, it is not a perfectly straight leg. That's all right. That's not the point. We're going to work our way up to deeper stretches where the hamstrings have an opportunity to truly lengthen and the leg becomes a straight line, but not yet. Do this about 1 or 2 more times, feeling that length through the back of the leg. And then the next time the knee bends, you can release the foot down onto the ground. Notice how your right and your left feel a little different from one another. And then inhale, exhale, hug the left thigh in, hold on to the back of the thigh, place the hands on the hamstring. The thigh comes in close, the thigh stays still, but the left foot reaches up as you inhale and comes down as you exhale. Inhale, foot to the ceiling, exhale, bend the knee. So you're moving with your breath at a slow and steady pace. The knee will not straighten, the leg will not become a straight line. That's not the point just yet. We'll get there later. Your left knee will stay at least mildly bent. We're getting a more passive and milder stretch in the hamstrings here. And even though you're hugging in with your arms, can you relax your shoulders towards the floor? Do this about 2 or 3 more times. And then when you're ready, you can release that left foot down. And again, just rest, noticing how you feel. Take a deep breath. Okay. And now we're going to start to work the hamstrings. Instead of letting them lengthen, we're going to shorten, contract, and make them work. So arms will come alongside the body, palms flat, facing the floor. Knees will be bent. And for those of you that have the ability to let your fingertips reach your heels, that means you've come a little too close, so you shouldn't be able to touch your fingers to your heels. Okay, feet are hip distance. I know you can't see your feet, but position them so that from up overhead, they look like a number 11. Okay. Push your feet down into the ground. The first step is tucking your tailbone for this bridge here. So tuck your tailbone, pushing your lower back down, like you're drawing your belly button towards your face, create a wrinkle in the front of your shirt. This is going to be a theme. We're going to be continuing to tuck the tailbone through the class. So again, a neutral spine looks something like this, where I can slip my hand under the lower back. But now we want to tuck the tailbone, push the lower back down, create the wrinkle, belly button tips towards the face. Now you keep tucking your tailbone so that you lift. You reach your hips, your lower back, your mid back, you reach to the sky, and then you slowly, keeping the tuck of the tailbone, lower back down. You might untuck for a moment, so there's that space, but then tuck again, push the lower back down, and then slowly lift, reach, rise. You should feel that hamstrings working, and then squeeze the glutes at the top, make sure they're working as well, and then keep the tuck of the tailbone as you lower. Let's do about 3 to 5 more at your own pace. Inhale as you reach, rise and lift and engage. Exhale slowly, mindfully lower. And a few more like this. And as you're working through the lower half of your body, lower back, glutes, hamstrings, can you relax your shoulders? Can you soften your chest, shoulders and arms, the throat, neck, and jaw, the muscles of the face? Eyes are welcome to be open or closed here. We'll do about 1 or 2 more. Notice the work in the hamstrings. They're now shortening and contracting as opposed to what we were doing just a moment ago. And again, we will be focusing on strengthening the hamstrings as well as lengthening, because most people know that their own body, that their hamstrings are tight, but that doesn't mean that they're strong necessarily. Okay, let's do one more movement here. You can let the arms go in opposite directions here, palms face up, and just let the knees sway from side to side. We'll just do this just a few times. The lower back was working in that last movement, so now let's let it stretch and release a little bit. Your lower back has the tendency to work and then not let go. It continues to squeeze and contract and strengthen. That's why a lot of people have lower back pain, because their back muscles turn on and never really turn off. Which sounds like, oh, maybe then your lower back muscles would be really strong, but that's not really a healthy muscle. It needs to contract and relax and know when to do each. So massage the lower back 1 more time each side with the legs. And then you can return back to the center. Inhale, exhale, hug the knees into the chest. Maybe 1 more time, sway, massage the lower back. And then we're going to come up to a seat. So you can roll to the side and push yourself up, or you could rock through to the center, whatever feels best. Okay. But then we're going to come into a seated position. When we sit on the floor, just with our legs crossed like this, the knees tend to hike up pretty high, a little closer to the ribs. We really want the knees a little bit lower. So I like to sit on a block. You can sit on whatever you've got, a block, a bolster, a blanket, a towel, a pillow, whatever works best for you. And you can continue to sit with your legs crossed mid-shin. I like to sit in Sukhasana, but whatever you'd like. So now the knees fall a little bit lower than the hips. You're gonna lengthen the spine. We're gonna focus on the spine, because just because we're focusing on the hamstring doesn't mean we're neglecting the upper body or other spaces. So let the legs relax, lengthen up through the spine, sit up tall, relax the shoulders. Inhale as you draw your belly forward, lift your chest, lift your heart, maybe look to the ceiling. Exhale, tuck the tailbone, draw the ribs back, chin to the chest, look down. Inhale as you draw the belly forward, lift the chest, lift the heart, look up. Exhale, tuck the tailbone, draw the ribs back, chin to the chest, look down. Do a few more like this at the pace of your breath. Basically moving through a seated cat and cow. Opening through the front and the back of the spine, through the front and the back of the torso. Relaxing the shoulders as you do so. Do one more of each here. And then slowly return back to the center, to a neutral spine, lengthening up through the crown of the head. Keep the shoulders soft. Inhale, circle the arms up. Exhale, bring the right hand down, stick left fingertips over, sweeping over. Inhale to the center. Exhale, take the side stretch in the opposite direction. And we'll move here back and forth at the pace of the breath. So moving at a slow, steady, controlled breath. You might be a step or two behind me in my cueing, that's okay. And again, that goes for even when you're in a group class, when you're in a live class. You work at your own pace, you listen to your own body. Know that your body is most likely very different from anyone else's in the room, even if you're in a crowded room. And so you listen to that. Let's do this one more time on each side though. I just want to do a handful just so we know that the spine is really prepped for all the movements that will come later. And then we'll return back to the center. Inhale, exhale, drop the arms, turn and twist over to your right. Keep the length in the spine. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, drop the arms as you turn and twist over the left. Inhale to the center, lengthen up. Exhale, drop the arms, take the twist. So oftentimes, as we twist, we end up slouching in the twist, which is a little counterproductive. So make sure there is constant length. You're not swapping out the length for the twist. You're adding on. Think of these movements almost as cumulative movements. You're adding one on to the next. Okay, let's do one more each side. And then inhale, return to the center. Exhale, let the arms come down. Good. All right. We are going to come into tabletop. So I always like to bring my blocks to the top two corners of my mat, just in case I need them when we come to the lunges. But if you don't have blocks, that's okay. You can always have a chair nearby if you feel like you would need something. But it's optional. And I can talk about that in a moment. Okay. But from here, we're going to come into gate pose, or a variation of gate pose. So from tabletop, hands under shoulders, knees under hips. Make sure that as you're here, you're not letting your heart sag down. You're going to push your hands down to make sure the chest muscles are working. The back of the neck is long. All right. So I like to bring my feet and my knees together here for this movement. But lengthen your right leg back. Push the heel back. The crown of the head forward. First, before we get into gate, we want to lengthen the leg as much as possible. So, heel back, crown of the head forward. You might even pulse and sort of rock forward and back. Again, creating that length in the back of the body. We'll stay for another moment. And then we'll return to stillness, back to the center. Now from here, your left shin is going to pivot out over to the left. The top of the foot rests on the ground, the toenails rest on the ground. It's a lot more stable. Okay. And then roll to the inside edge of your right foot, so your right toes point over to the right side. So it's almost like your toes are pointing in opposite directions. And then if you find that you feel unstable ever when we practice this pose, check out your knee and your arch, or your knee and your heel more or less, are in the same plane. Sometimes people are a little too staggered and they feel unstable. So these two are sort of in the same plane, in the same line. And left hand in that same line. Push the left hand down. Inhale, reach the right fingertips up towards the ceiling. So we're sort of in a version of gate pose. We'll get there in a moment. Okay. So you're pushing down into the floor. Anything that's touching the ground, even your left toenails, push them down so that you can reach the right fingertips up and you can reach the crown of your head away. Continue to reach the crown of the head in one direction and the right heel in the opposite. So from here, from this sort of modified side plank, let's come into gate. So push the left hand down into the floor, inhale, rise, and allow the bottom of the right foot to rest flat on the floor. Fingertips reach out in opposite directions, crown of the head up, so your spine is tall and long. If you're familiar with Warrior Two, this is sort of like a Warrior Two, lengthening up, reaching out, and then from here, inhale, exhale, sweep the left fingertips up and over. So if you're familiar with Reverse Warrior, it's sort of like a Reverse Warrior. Right hand can come wherever is comfortable, just make sure it's not pushing on the knee. Left knee is pushing down as the left fingertips sweep up and over. Elongate the left side of the body. Stay for a breath. And then inhale, return to the center. Exhale, cartwheel the arms. And return everything back to the center, back to neutral. Okay, we'll do that on the second side. I'm going to turn so I'm still facing you, but you can stay where you're at. All right, so hands down on the ground, under the shoulders. Again, I like to bring my feet and my knees a little closer together here, but you'll lengthen the left leg back, hook the toes under. So now the bottoms of your toes are on the ground, not the toenails. And you might stay in stillness. You might sort of rock and pulse forward and back. Again, creating that length through the back side of the body. Stay for another moment. And then we'll return back to the center. And now your right shin is going to pivot out. Top of the foot down, toenails down. Roll to the inside edge of the left foot. So your toes are sort of pointing in opposite directions, more or less. The right hand, the knee, and the foot are all in the same long line, like they're on a tightrope. Push the right hand down, inhale, reach left fingertips to the sky. Okay, so you're pushing down to reach up. You're reaching the heel back and the crown of the head forward. And when we are here in these movements, a lot of times when we reach the arms up overhead, the ribs come forward. So even here, tuck the tailbone just a little bit. Create a wrinkle in the front of your shirt instead of a long stretch in the front. Create that wrinkle, lengthen the spine. You have the option to stay here, but you know where we're going. Push the left hand down, right hand down, reaching up, allowing the bottom of the left foot onto the ground. So you're a lot more stable here. Arms reach out, crown of the head up. You're welcome to stay here, or inhale, exhale, almost like a reverse warrior, opening through the side of the body. Now this is gate pose, Parigasana. Push the right shin down, top of the right toes down into the ground, toenails down, as you reach the right fingertips up and over. Left hand can rest wherever, just don't push on the knee. Take a deep breath here. Inhale, return. Exhale, come all the way back down. Okay. Give yourself a moment, maybe roll out your wrists, let your hips sway, whatever you need. Okay. And then we're going to start to really get moving here. So from tabletop, we're going to push the hands into the ground, spread the fingers wide. Your middle fingers point forward. The creases of your elbows point forward. They often want to turn in toward each other. This is not really what we're looking for in the shoulders. So open through the shoulders to draw the creases of the elbows forward. Look to the space between your thumbs. Keep the neck in neutral. Lengthen your legs back into a plank position. You're a straight line from the crown of your head back to your heels. So you're welcome to drop to your knees. Just make sure you're not in tabletop, modified, or on the toes. Inhale, exhale, downward facing dog, and taking your time to move in any way that feels good, because this is probably your first down dog of the day, maybe of the last several days. So maybe you pedal the heels, sway the hips, shake the head yes and no. Take one more breath. And we're going to do that again, so spread your fingers as wide as they'll go. Inhale, shift forward, plank pose like the top part of a push-up. Now we want to make sure the hips aren't sagging, the abs are not working here, or hiking up. So you are, again, a strong, long, straight line, and we want to tuck the tailbone. Inhale, exhale, downward facing dog. Sit bones to the sky again. Take any movement you like. Really pushing the hands into the floor. Sometimes that's challenging if our hands feel like they're sliding, but we do want to push into the floor. Now we're going to do that one more time. Inhale, shift forward, plank pose. Now again, making sure the abs are working. So we're not letting the ribs drop to the floor. Abs do not work here. Tuck the tailbone. Create that wrinkle by your belly button. Inhale, exhale, down dog. One breath here. Okay, and then deeply bend the knees. Inhale, look forward. Exhale, travel forward. Walk or step forward into forward fold, Uttanasana. Letting your upper body surrender to gravity. Now we're getting into a stretch in the hamstrings again. Knees might be bent, legs might be straight. But make sure that the stretch is comfortable and that it's not too deep. Again, you'll have opportunities for that later. Don't push it too early in the practice. All right, let the upper body hang and surrender. Take a breath. Now push firmly through the heels of the feet. Inhale, lift up halfway, lengthen the spine. We're going to pause here for a moment. So reach the crown of your head forward, your tailbone back. Create length in the spine, like you did when you were sitting and you were sitting up tall. Now shift the weight, make sure it's back in the heels. You can wiggle your toes. Your hamstrings should feel like they're contracting, like they're working, like they were in bridge pose. So maintain that length. Inhale as you rise up. Circle the arms. Maybe even take a bit of a back bend. Bring your hands through to your heart and take a deep breath. Okay. We'll move through some sun salutations here. So inhale, circle the arms up. Exhale, hinge of the hips. Keep the back flat for as long as possible. Round into forward fold, Uttanasana. Inhale, lift up halfway. Exhale, step the right foot back. Now hands can come to the floor or to blocks. This is where blocks come in handy because what we want here is the left shin forward, right heel back. So the legs are long, but we want to be able to ground in the floor. So we don't want to not be able to touch the floor. We don't want just the fingertips on the floor. So maybe you've got a chair beside you or whatever you need, a stack of books, whatever works. But I want you to be able to push your hands down to make sure that the upper body is engaged. It's not a time for it to relax. Crown of the head forward, tailbone back. Inhale, exhale, downward facing dog. Bring your hands back onto the mat. Okay, spread your fingers as wide as they'll go. Your middle fingers point forward towards the top of your mat. Inhale, shift forward. Plank pose. We've already been here. So make sure you're not letting the ribs drop down. Tuck the tailbone. Push down into the floor. Don't sag through the chest and shoulders. Now keep up the length and the strength. Inhale, shift forward. Exhale, slowly lower. Maybe drop to your knees first. Let the tops of your feet come down onto the ground. Bring your arms alongside your body. Bring the palms facing in towards the thighs. Push the tops of the feet down. Push the hips down. Inhale, lift the chest, the shoulders, the arms, and the hands. Draw the hands a little closer together. Draw the chest away from the floor and lengthen the back of the neck. So look at the top edge of your mat, maybe just a few inches in front. But we want the back of the neck long, no wrinkles in the back of the neck. Take a breath, Locust Shalabhasana. Inhale, lower the hands under the shoulders. Exhale, downward facing dog. Give yourself a moment. Okay, now slowly pick up the right foot, reach the right heel back, keeping the hips level. Inhale, exhale, draw the right knee forward towards the belly, quietly place the foot in between the hands. So what we really want to avoid is stomping and slapping the foot down onto the ground. We want it to be coming from the control of the muscles, not from the pulling and the swinging of the joints. So again, hands can come to blocks here. I want you to be able to draw the right shin forward, left heel back. Push the hands down, lengthen the spine. Arms are working here. Inhale. Exhale, step forward. Forward fold Uttanasana, rounding the upper body. Push the heels into the floor. Inhale, lift up halfway. Exhale, fold. Push the heels down. Inhale, rise. Reach fingertips to the sky. We're going to do that again. Exhale, hinge at the hips. Inhale, lift up halfway. Exhale, step the left foot back, all the way back. So again, hands might be on blocks or mat. Right shin forward, left heel back, hands down, lift the chest, lengthen the spine, and now squeeze the inner thighs in toward each other, like you're getting the inner seams of your pants just a little bit closer together. Inhale, exhale, downward facing dog. Give yourself a moment. Again, if you're a step or two behind my cueing, that's okay. All right, inhale, shift forward, plank pose. So make sure hips are not up, hips are not down, and tailbone is tucked. Feel the work. You should feel like you're working in this pose. Keep it up. Inhale, shift forward. Exhale, slowly lower. All the way down. Tops of the feet down. Arms alongside the body. Inhale, lift. Now push the tops of your feet down. Push your hips down. Lift your chest, lift your heart, lift your shoulders, lift your arms. Bring the hands closer together. Maybe even interlace. I want the back of your torso to be working. We're working the front anytime we're in a plank. Now we've got to work the back. Take a breath, Shalabhasana. Inhale, lower hands under shoulders, exhale, downward facing dog. So this transition here is where we want it to be soft. We don't want to hear the foot thud into the ground. So pick up the left foot, reach it back, keep the hips level. Inhale. Exhale, knee forward towards the belly, quietly and softly, place the foot down. All right, left shin forward, right heel back, inner thighs in, hands down, chest up, spine long. People underestimate this pose, there's a lot going on. Inhale, exhale, step forward, forward fold. Push the heels down, inhale, lift halfway. Exhale, fold. Inhale, rise. Reach the fingertips up, maybe out of back bend. We're going to come to standing poses. Exhale, hinge at the hips. Forward fold. Inhale, lift up halfway. Exhale, step the right foot back. And then pivot the foot so the right heel is firmly down on the ground. Deeply bend the left knee. Bring your hands to the top of your thighs. Help lift your torso. And cartwheel your arms around. Come to Warrior Two. So Warrior Two is a longer stance. Our feet are pretty far away from one another. Left toes forward, left knee tracking right over the ankle. Right toes sort of pointing over to the right side. Spine is long, arms reach out, shoulders relax. Warrior Two, take a deep breath here. Okay. Now, push through the left heel to straighten that left leg. We're gonna bring the hands to the hips here, because this next action all starts here in the hips and the pelvis. Oftentimes people are round in this pose and they feel a deep stretch in the side of the torso, but that's not the point of the pose. We want to feel the stretch in the back of the left thigh, the hamstrings. Here's where we're getting into lengthening the hamstrings. So I like to do this with my hands and my hips. Drop the right hip down, hike the left hip up. Oh, I'm not mirroring. The right hip, the left hip, excuse me, I'm so used to mirroring students. Okay, so your left hip is going to drop, your right hip will hike. The waistband of your pants will be a diagonal line. It's no longer parallel, a diagonal line. Create a deep hip crease at your left hip flexor. So now that you've got that, you should even feel the stretch here. I do, and I would consider my hamstrings pretty open. I feel the stretch in the back of my left thigh. Now reach the arms out in opposite directions. Inhale, start to reach forward. Once you can't reach forward anymore, then bring the left hand down. Now it might come to a block. It might come to the mat. Remember that your block is able to be on 3 different heights, so choose the height you like. Right fingertips reach to the sky. Now you can look down, you can look forward, or you can look up. Generally looking up is going to be more of a stretch in your neck. That usually doesn't feel so good for me, so I'm going to look down, but you do what you need. Now oftentimes students draw their right hand way too far back. So make sure that your hand is right over your shoulder. So you should be a straight line from wrist to wrist. You're pushing your heels into the floor and continuing to drop your left hip and hike up your right. So instead of allowing the hips to be closer to parallel to the floor and feel the stretch on the right side of the torso, we want to lengthen the back of the left thigh. Okay. Triangle pose, Trikonasana. Stay for one more deep breath. Now slowly bend the left knee, Firmly push through the heels and inhale, return to warrior two. Okay. Now from here, we're going to shorten the stance just a little bit. So I like to heel toe the back foot in, one little heel toe. Hook the toes in a lot more. So your right toes are sort of pointing towards the top right corner of your mat. And inhale, warrior one. Fingertips now to the sky, torso and chest forward. So you might have to move around a little bit more. It's not the most graceful of transitions, but it gets us there. So you might have to sort of settle in, and we stay in each of these poses for a few breaths. Part of it is because of that. So you've got time to really settle. The left knee continues to come forward, right heel continues to draw back, fingertips up, shoulders relax. Take a breath, warrior one, Virabhadrasana one. Okay. Now for our balance pose, let's bring the hands to the hips and look at a spot on the floor, something that won't move. So pick a spot on the floor, a speck, a piece of wood grain, whatever it is. Keep your eyes on that fixed spot. Allow the right heel to lift. Pivot the right foot so all 10 toes point forward. When we're in this pose, your belly button should point towards your left big toe, not the side of the room. Okay, so hip square, that's going to help us keep the hips down. Okay, look at that spot. Start to shift your weight forward into the left foot. The right big toe might stay on the ground. It might just lift a little. It might lift a lot. Come into some version of warrior three, Virabhadrasana 3. So lengthen the right leg back, toes point to the ground, crown of the head forward. Your spine is long, tuck your tailbone. We often want to be in a back bend. Tuck the tailbone. Left knee might be bent a little or it might be straight. It depends on your hamstrings, but we're getting into them here. Feel the work in the hamstrings and in your glute med. So hands can stay at the hips, or for more of a challenge, fingertips reach forward, but stay for one more deep breath. And then slowly return back to warrior one. Right foot, even the heel, firmly rounded. Take a breath. Inhale, exhale, bring the hands down. Step back. Downward facing dog. I'll give you a few moments, about 3 to 5 breaths, to be wherever you'd like to be. So maybe that means working and taking a vinyasa. Maybe dropping to child's pose, whatever you need. Give yourself a few breaths. And we'll all come to downward facing dog. From downward facing dog, deeply bend the knees. Inhale, look forward. Exhale, travel forward. Forward fold Uttanasana. Push firmly through the heels. Inhale, lift up halfway. Exhale, fold, surrender to gravity. Push the heels down. Inhale, rise up. Fingertips reach, maybe at the back bend. Bring the hands through to the heart. Take a deep breath. I switch sides, so I'll still be facing you, but you're staying right where you're at. We're going to do all of that on the second side. Okay, so inhale, circle the arms up. Exhale, hinge of the hips, fold forward. Inhale, lift up halfway. Exhale, step the left foot back, all the way back, and then pivot the foot, ground the heel. Your left toes are pointing over to the left. Right toes are still forward. Deeply bend the right knee, bring the hands to the top of the right thigh. Inhale, cartwheel the arms, warrior two. And you can see that when I get settled, I still tend to need to walk my back foot back. So give yourself the time that you need to get into the pose properly. Okay. So that might mean deepening the lunge. It might mean lengthening the stance. For me, it also often means tucking my tailbone. I tend to draw my ribs forward. And so drawing the ribs in, tuck the tailbone, the spine should be long. There should be a wrinkle here. Reach the arms out, let the shoulders relax, take a breath. Okay. Now push the right heel into the floor, straighten the legs, and let's bring the hands to the hips. So again, this pose, triangle pose, starts at your hips It's not a side bend. We often think that it is. I'm pretty sure I went years thinking it was. It's not. If you feel something there, that's okay, but you should be feeling something in the back of your right leg once we're there. So I like hands at the hips, drop the right hip, shorten your hip flexor. Notice that this space is pretty smooth here. We want it to be wrinkly here. Let the left hip hike. The waistband of your pants is now a diagonal. Feel length here. You should feel it here without even tipping your torso forward yet. So drop the right side of the pelvis. Reach the arms out. Inhale, reach forward. Once you can't reach forward anymore, then bring the hand down. Maybe to a block on any height. Remember, you can manipulate the height of the block, so it suits you best. Left fingertips to the sky. You might look up. I'd like to look for just a second just to make sure my hand isn't too far back. And then again, it doesn't really feel so great on my neck to look up, but you absolutely can. I'm tight here, so it feels best to look down. But as you're here, continue to hike your left hip up, right hip down. So instead of creating that parallel line, deepen that diagonal line, almost like you want the waistband of your pants to be straight up and down, a vertical line. You won't get there, but that idea, really deepen that diagonal tilt. Triangle pose, Trikonasana, take a breath. Okay, deeply bend the right knee, push firmly through the heels, and inhale, return to warrior two. Arms outstretched. Take a moment. Okay, and then we're going to shorten the stance. Again, it's not the most graceful of transition, but maybe one heel toe, maybe two, and then hook the back toes in even more. Turn to face forward, fingertips to the sky, warrior one, Virabhadrasana one. And for me, I like to widen my stance, not necessarily lengthen, I actually shorten it, but I like my heels more about hip distance apart, but they can be a little narrower, that's fine. Depends on really the size of your hips. So if you consider yourself someone with narrow hips, you might take a narrow stance, wider hips might take a wider stance. So again, not just this practice, yoga as a practice should suit your body, your lifestyle, your mindset, whatever you're looking for and whatever your body is asking for, that's what we're providing for it. Okay, so fingertips to the sky, let the shoulders relax. Draw the left hip forward. So now we're gonna lengthen the front of the left hip. You might feel it in your hip flexor. Take one more breath here. Okay, now bring the hands to the hips. We're coming to that balance pose. So allow the left hip to lift, pivot the foot, look down at a spot on the floor at something that will not move. I'm going to back up because I think I'm going to hit that lamp, but look down at a spot on the floor. Allow the weight of your body to shift forward into the right heel. The left toe might stay. It might hover. It might lift up. The hope is that from the crown of the head to the left heel, you're a straight line. For more of a challenge, you might even reach your right fingertips, all of your fingertips forward. Crown of the head forward, fingertips forward, left heel back. Make sure that the spine is level. Drop the left hip, draw the ribs in. Stay for another breath, warrior three, Virabhadrasana 3. And then deeply bend the right knee, let the left foot touch down, return to a warrior one. Torso upright, fingertips to the sky. Inhale, exhale, bring the hands down, step back, downward facing dog. Take a few breaths, moving, working, resting, being still wherever you need to be. Okay. And then in a moment, we'll all meet in tabletop. We're going to come back to gate pose and those variations. We're going to add on to them. So from tabletop, allow your right shin to pivot out, top of the foot rests on the ground, toenails on the ground. Lengthen the left leg back and roll to the inside edge of the foot. So again, your toes are sort of pointing to two opposite ends of the room. Right hand is down, right hand, right knee, and left foot in the same line as if they're on a tightrope. Push the left hand down, push the right hand down, reach left fingertips to the sky. I never realized how good I was at mirroring until I have to not mirror.
Okay, so pushing the right hand down, left fingertips to the sky, and then allowing the right knee, right shin, top of the foot down. Again, you can pad the right knee with a blanket if you need. Now, we're gonna stay in this plane instead of coming upright. So to work the glute medius, we're gonna allow the left leg to lift and float up off the ground. It doesn't have to come up very high, but we're gonna push through the heel. Make sure that the ribs are not pushing forward. You might have to tuck the tailbone. Push the heel back like you're pointing your toes towards your face. And now you can stay here. You should feel the work here, or keep the leg long. Inhale, let the leg lower, hover over the floor. Exhale, bring it up. Inhale, let it lower. Exhale, bring it up. Let's do 3 more. Inhale, exhale, 2 more. Inhale, exhale, 1 more. Inhale, exhale. When you get to the top, hold it. Take a deep breath. Draw the ribs in. Push the hands down. Lengthen the leg. Inhale and exhale. Return to tabletop. Okay, we'll do that on the same thing on the second side. I'm going to turn around, but you can stay where you're at. Okay, left shin is going to pivot out, top of the foot down. Left toenails down on the ground. Lengthen the right leg. Roll to the inside edge of the foot. Left hand, left knee, right foot on like a tightrope. Push the left hand down. Inhale, right fingertips to the sky. Okay, so pushing everything down to stay strong, tall and long, not pushing the belly forward. Draw the ribs in. You could stay here. You could allow the right leg to lift. Let it float up off the ground. Push the heel back. Toes curl in towards your face. Now you could stay here, keeping that leg long, working the glute medius here, or continue to work it as you let the leg lower and bring it up. Inhale, let it lower. Exhale, bring it up. Let's do 3 more. Inhale, exhale, 2 more. Inhale, exhale, 1 more. Inhale, exhale. Hold it at the top. Keep pushing the heel back, crown of the head forward, ribs in, push down. Inhale, exhale, bring everything back down. And allow everything to move around. Roll out your wrists, take a child's pose, hip circles, whatever you need. We're going to do one more movement where we're working, and then we're going to start to stretch. So there we were focusing more on the glute medius, the side of the hip, the side of the glute. Now we're going to come back to the hamstrings again, to the backs of the thighs. So from tabletop, again, we're going to continue to kneel. So you might, if you don't necessarily have a blanket right next to you, you could just put a kink in your mat and fold it under. You could also do that with your wrists. You might not need it, but so just like before, I like my knees and my shins and my feet to come a little closer together. Now, as we're here, what's very crucial is that you feel the work in your legs, your hamstrings, your glute medius, glute maximus, all of these spaces, not your back. And you might start to feel it in your back if you allow the ribs to drop down. So again, tucking the tailbone. Create a wrinkle in the front of your shirt. Make sure the spine is long. So you're engaging your abs, protecting your lower back. We're not necessarily looking for a cat pose, but we certainly don't want a cow pose. Okay, so spine is long, crown of the head forward, tailbone back. You're pushing down, tucking the tailbone. Okay, now draw the right leg back, lifting the leg up off the ground. Push the heel back, toes point down. Keep the hips level. Make sure that the right hip doesn't sag nor lift up too high. Okay, now you're gonna keep your right thigh where it's at. We're just gonna move at the knee. Inhale, exhale, curl, bend the knee. Inhale, lengthen, exhale, curl, bend the knee. 3 more. Inhale, exhale. 2 more. Inhale, exhale. Last one. Inhale, exhale, curl. We're going to hold it here. The bottom of your right foot is facing the ceiling. Your right knee is bent. Make sure that the ribs aren't dropping. Tuck the tailbone. Draw the ribs in. Now stand footprints on the ceiling. Now the movement should be small because the more movement we have in the leg, the more the torso wants to release, and again, that's vulnerable for the back. So stamping footprints on the ceiling, just moving in the leg, small movements for 3, 2, and 1, and then lengthen the leg. One last movement here. Leg is going to stay long. It's like your right toes are resting on a low bench or a coffee table. They're gonna stay at the same height. Draw the ribs in, tuck the tailbone. We're almost done here. Draw the right leg to the right and then to the left. Try to keep the torso still as the right leg goes to the right and to the left. 3 more, right and left. 2 more, right, left. 1 more, right, left, and then drop it down. Good. So especially in that last movement, you would have felt your left glute medius working, your right glute medius maximus and hamstrings. So both legs working, just in very different ways. Okay. We're gonna do that again. Obviously, we've got to do that on the second side. If, as we're here, your wrists are starting to bother you, I always like to bring my forearms on my blocks. And if you don't have blocks, you can use something else. So then you're just letting your wrist relax. But now that my torso is lower to the ground, I've really got to be conscious about not letting the belly drop down. So again, this shows me that your abs are not working, lower back is vulnerable and not protected. So protect your lower back. Okay, so we'll lengthen the left leg back, letting it float up off the ground. Push the heel back, toes point down. Now you're going to draw the ribs up and in. Engage abs, protect lower back. Inhale, exhale, bend at the knee, heel to the back of the thigh. Inhale, lengthen the leg. Exhale, bend at the knee, heel to the back of the thigh. 3 more, inhale and exhale. 2 more, inhale and exhale. 1 more, inhale. Exhale, curl, hold it here. Bottom of the left foot faces the ceiling. We're doing small footprints on the ceiling as we stand. Footprints on the ceiling, draw the ribs in. Now this is one where your belly really wants to drop down. It's tough to do this movement. You should feel like you're working. It's a small movement, but you're working hard. We're gonna stay for 3, 2, 1, and then lengthen the leg. Last movement, leg stays long, ribs stay in, lower back is protected. Left toes like they're resting on a low bench or a coffee table. They stay at the same height as they go to the left and then to the right, to the left and to the right. Keep your torso still. 3 more, left, right. 2 more, left, right. 1 more, keep the abs engaged, low back protected, and then slowly let that knee come back down. Again, take a few moments, roll out, do a stretch. After this, we are going to stretch. So we've been working the hamstrings. Again, because there's a common misconception that if a muscle is tight, it's tight because it's strong. And that does often happen. Ask most athletes who are very strong and very inflexible. But your hamstrings are not really a good example of that. They're the exception because hamstrings are tight from sitting and from walking and from sleeping on your sides and from bike riding. So some of those things, bike riding and running, maybe might make your hamstrings stronger, but sleeping on your sides and sitting certainly does not. So they just get tight and not necessarily strong. So we wanted to strengthen them. Okay, so now we're going to lengthen them. So let's start with the left leg long and the right knee bent. Bottom of the foot resting somewhere to the inner part of the thigh. It might come to the inner part of the calf. It might come to the inner part of the thigh. I'm not terribly against the foot to the inner part of the knee. If we were in tree pose, that would be a problem. But your foot isn't pushing into the leg, so wherever it needs to go so that the right leg rests. It should be relaxed, easy, effortless, not a lot happening here anywhere in the right leg. Okay, we're focused on the left leg. Push your left heel away from you, your left toes to the sky. The longer you're here, the more your left toes will want to start to fall to the left. That's not so good in the knee. And it's kind of a little counterproductive for the stretch in the back of the leg. We want to stretch the back of the leg, so the back of the leg needs to face the floor, not the outer part of the leg. Okay, so push your hands into the ground, inhale, sit up tall. Exhale, keep your back flat, hinge at your hips. So shorten your hip flexor, create a deep crease and a lot of wrinkles by your left hip flexor where your torso meets your thigh. Create a crease here lengthen from the spine, and then if you want, you could round. Rounding in your spine will create a stretch in your back, but really the main intention is the stretch in the back of the thigh. So I like to keep my back flat. That feels much more comfortable in my body, but you absolutely could round. You might keep your hands on the mat. You might grab onto your shin, your ankle, your foot, your toes. For those of you who are more flexible, you might take a bind here. So you might wrap one arm around and then grab onto the other wrist. Like if fingertips are not necessarily enough, you could grab on here. It's a little too much for me right in this moment, but again, whatever you need. And you keep drawing your left heel away from you and your tailbone back. So we're doing the opposite of tucking the tailbone. We're drawing the pelvis forward instead of back. And we're going to take 3 breaths here in Janu Shirsasana. Keeping your torso how it is, bring your hands under your shoulders. Push your hands into the ground to inhale, lift up. Okay, and then use your hands to return your right leg. Lengthen the right, we will switch sides. So left knee will be bent, bottom of the foot resting somewhere along the inner leg line of the right leg. Doesn't matter to me exactly where it falls, as long as it's not pushing. And as long as it can relax. The focus is entirely on this right leg. Left leg, let it relax. Let it just fall heavy and let it hang. Okay, so square your torso. So you're right over this right leg. Right heel pushes away, toes to the sky. Inhale, lengthen the spine, exhale, fold. Keep the back flat as you tip. This really is all in your pelvis. Tipping the pelvis forward, like you're drawing your belly button towards the floor, not towards your face like before. Okay. Now you might stay here upright. That's usually what feels best for me, but it doesn't mean you have to stay here. You can round your upper body. You can grab on. Again, you can take this sort of grip on either one. But the intention is to feel a comfortable stretch in the back of your right leg. You might feel it in the Achilles, the calf, the knee, the thigh. I often feel it in my sit bone, deep here, up in the upper part, but as long as it's comfortable, that's all right. If you choose to round your spine, you'll probably feel it in your lower back. It's okay if it's comfortable. This is Janu Shirsasana. We're going to stay for 3 more breaths. Bring your hands under your shoulders. Push your hands into the ground. Inhale, rise. Use the hands on the left leg to return it back to the center. Okay. Now from here, I'm going to give you the option between 2 poses. The first one is, oh, I guess I'll do this sideways. The first one is with the legs together. So you're going to, again, just stretch the backs of the legs. It's basically a seated forward fold, which we've been doing standing forward folds throughout the practice, but now a seated forward fold. If you're looking for something more along the inner leg line in addition to the backs of the legs, you might take a wide stance with your legs, a sort of straddle position. So you can choose which one you like. Maybe you sort of do, you lengthen your legs away from each other, but not that much. That's okay. Whatever feels best for you. This will be our last seated pose. So I want it to be whatever you need it to be, but the heels will continue to draw away from you. Your toes will reach to the sky. When you have your legs out, your legs will be tempted to either drop in or out, neither of which is what we're looking for, especially in the knees. So you've got to draw the heels away from you, the toes to the sky. So wherever you're at, push the hands down. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, fold at your pelvis. Shorten your hip flexors. Lengthen through the backside. Fold your pelvis over your thighs, over your femurs, like you're drawing your belly button towards your thighs as opposed to your face. And then allowing maybe your hands to walk forward. Maybe you grab on. Whatever feels best. You might keep your back flat, you might round, but stay in some version of a seated forward fold for about 3 more breaths. Bring your hands under your shoulders. Push your hands into the ground. Inhale, rise. Bring your back to a long neutral spine. Shoulders relaxed. Take a deep breath. Okay, and then you can let your legs move in any way that feels good for a few more moments. And we're going to make our way down into our back. So you can just bend your knees and slowly come all the way down onto your back. Okay. Now from here, let the arms come out in opposite directions. Palms up, knees bent, feet flat, and just like before, let your knees sway from side to side. So just coming back into the spine, I'll give you the opportunity for one more hamstring stretch. But the intention really will be more about the spine. The hamstring stretch will be a little secondary. So let's warm up the spine for what we're about to do. Let it sort of get massaged into the lower back. Again, just like before, the spine really is warmed up very much at this point. But just sort of previewing what we're about to do. Let your legs go to each side one more time. And then when you come back to the center, pause here. Okay, scoot your hips over to the right, 2 to 3 inches. Cross the right leg over the left, and let the legs fall to the left. Okay, now focus again on the spine. Make sure that your heart is facing the ceiling, and your belly button is pointing to the left. So you're feeling something in your spine, in your torso. You might feel a stretch through the outer part of the right hip and thigh. If you want to add on to that feeling in the leg, you might lengthen your right leg over to the left side of the room. So your right leg is sort of perpendicular to the length of your mat. And so for my really bendy people, your right foot might come up towards your left hand, and you might even grab onto it. But if it creates any tension, it's not necessary. Okay. And now this is meant to be a passive stretch, a very passive pose. Most of the practice we were working pretty hard, so now let yourself rest. If it's comfortable in your neck, you might turn at your neck to look over your right shoulder. So it's like your knees and your nose are pointing in opposite directions. But find wherever is most comfortable and stay for 3 breaths. If your head is turned, slowly return it back to the center. If your right leg is extended, bend your right knee again, bring the feet and knees together. Inhale, slowly return the legs back to the center. Uncross the legs, recenter the hips. Keep the spine in neutral for a breath or 2. Okay. And then allow the hips to drop over to the left, scoot over to the left a little bit. Cross the left leg over the right, and let the legs fall to the right. Now again, focus on the twist first before adding on. Your belly button points to the right, your heart faces the ceiling, and maybe you stay here,
Maybe you lengthen your left leg like it's perpendicular to your mat, and your left toes might even come up by your right hand. They might not, that's okay. If it's comfortable in your neck, you might turn at your neck like you're looking over your left shoulder. But let your body relax. Let your muscles soften. Take 3 breaths here. If your head is turned, slowly return it to the center. If your left leg is extended, bend your left knee, bring the feet and knees together. Slowly return the legs back to the center, uncross the legs, recenter the hips. Bring everything to neutral. Take a deep breath. And then inhale. Exhale, hug the knees into the chest. Maybe rock side to side. Tree circles with your knees. Maybe point and flex your feet or do ankle circles. Whatever feels best in your body for about 2 to 3 breaths. And we'll come into Shavasana. So Shavasana, our final resting pose, you're always welcome to come to constructive resting pose, which is often called half Shavasana, Ardha Shavasana. Knees bent, feet flat, feet at the edges of the mat, knees knocked in. Or you can lengthen your legs. Either way, arms rest about a foot away from the body with the palms up. I'm going to come to a seat, but you stay on your back. Pick a position that feels very good, that feels really organic and comfortable, somewhere where you can very much relax. And then allow your body to really rest. Allow your body to feel heavy. And as you let your body rest and relax, allow your breath to be easy and effortless. Allow your mind to soften and be at ease. If you find that thoughts come into your mind, allow them to float away. Just as easily as they passed in, let them pass by, like clouds in the sky, not being forceful, putting forth no effort, and remaining calm, quiet, and peaceful.
imagine that these deep breaths fill your bones, filling them with air and breath, making them feel light and lifted so it becomes effortless to move. Effortless to rock your head from side to side, to run your thumbs over the rest of your fingers as you wiggle your toes. Roll your wrists and ankles, move your arms and legs. You can reach your arms overhead, stretching as if you just woke up from a long nap. Take a deep breath in. As you breathe out, hug your knees in towards your chest and slowly roll over onto either side in a tucked fetal position. Keeping your eyes closed and using the strength of both arms, push down into the ground and come up to a comfortable seat. Take a moment here to thank yourself for making it to your mat today, and maybe reflect on your intention. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. May all beings everywhere be happy and free, and may the thoughts, words, and actions of my life contribute in some way to the happiness and freedom for all. Now slowly join your hands together in front of your heart in Anjali Mudra. To seal our practice, we'll chant the sound of Om one time. Om is the oldest and most sacred mantra. It's said to be the first sound that ever existed. It lives in all living beings and unites all of us. So again, we'll chant this sound of Om one time. Let's start with a deep and clearing breath. Inhale for Om. The light or the good in me acknowledges, respects, and bows to the light or the good in you. Namaste. Thank you.